Hello, a crime syndicate with immense power, expanding for over 3 decades in an autonomous region of China. With their influence, they took control of everything, even going so far as to ruthlessly eliminate innocent people who stood in their way. All the dark truths about one of the most notorious gangs in China's criminal underworld will be revealed in this video. In the 1980s, Huang Yingxiang, a native of Xiangjiang, began to rise in prominence as he became the head of the Huang family. He became the leader of the construction group and established the Construction Committee of Xianjiang County in Hainan Province, China. He had 5 sons and loved them dearly, despite the fact that they frequently caused trouble everywhere. He never resorted to violence or punishment to discipline them. Gradually, these 5 sons grew up and became more arrogant and domineering. With their powerful influence, no one dared to challenge their family. Moreover, his second son, Huang Hongxin, became the deputy secretary of Tuying District in Haikou City. His third son, Huang Hongbu, worked at the prosecutor's office, further solidifying the Huang family's status. With such power, they cast a shadow over everything, committing countless crimes without consequence. Notably, the youngest son, Huang Hongfa, though the youngest of the 5 brothers, but was the most arrogant. Even while still in school, he had joined the underworld and criminal gangs. Thanks to the family's wealth, he formed his own gang and recruited young gangsters from other criminal organizations to work for him. Gradually, Huang Hongfa amassed a large following, and the Huang family became a formidable force. In February 1990, his 4th brother, Huang Hongming, got involved in a fight that left 1 person dead and another seriously injured. This situation could not avoid trouble, but with his father's influence, Huang Yingxiang took various actions to protect his son. Not only did Huang Hongming evade any punishment, but he also used his father's power to retaliate against the authorities. This incident spread throughout Xianjiang County, making everyone aware of the Huang family's expanding dominance. After establishing a strong presence among the major gangs, the Huang family began to expand and take over smaller gangs, thereby solidifying their dominant position. The Huang family became a powerful gang. Although they were not involved in business themselves, with their initial wealth, the family thrived. In 1991, Huang Hongxin purchased rare gambling equipment like horse racing machines and slot machines from Guangdong to bring to Xianjiang County. This new style of casino attracted the attention of gamblers and became a lucrative business. The Huang family wasn't the only one running this type of operation in Xianjiang. To capitalize on the money-making opportunity, they employed ruthless tactics to attack their competitors. Their method was simple: send henchmen to harass rival small casinos and then buy them out at a low price to expand their operations. Huang Yingxiang entrusted his 3rd son, Huang Hongbu, who worked at the prosecutor's office, with managing the casinos. Huang Hongbu's methods were brutal. Before long, many casinos in Xianjiang County were linked to the Huang family to maintain their position and profits. Huang Hongbu hired a large number of thugs to help manage the operations. In 1995, the Huang family targeted the Jiang family, a local family also involved in the gambling business. Huang Hongfa devised a plan, sending 5 young men armed with axes and other deadly weapons to launch a direct attack. Jiang Gusi, a member of the Jiang family, was stabbed 27 times. Fortunately, he survived, though he was severely injured, classified as an 8th-degree disabled person, and lost sight in his left eye. All 5 perpetrators were never punished by the law and fled to Guangdong to evade capture. Huang Hongfa returned and provided them with funds so they could live comfortably in hiding. They claimed to have killed Jiang Guisu, but the case remains unresolved. The Jiang family realized they were no match for the Huang family and were forced to leave Xianjiang, where they had lived for many years in search of safety. With the Jiang family driven out, the Huang family immediately absorbed their territory, effectively seizing control of the entire gambling market in Xianjiang. The Huang family relied on these casinos to profit from the operation. Many original leaders and key members of the gangs admitted that Huang Hongfa was in charge and they had to obey his commands. Other notable figures included Lin Haidao, the leader of the Triangle Road Gang, Wen Hai, the boss of the Sugar Factory Gang, Fu Jiang, and many others. These members became sworn brothers of Huang Hongfa, and thanks to their abilities, they were quickly appointed to important positions in the organization. At this point, no one in Xiangjiang dared to oppose the Huang family due to their vast network of control. However, nothing lasts forever. 4 months after Jiang Gusi was stabbed, Huang Hongfa's parents were injured in a home explosion. A year later, Huang Hongfa's third brother Huang Hongbu was killed, and one of his friends was shot dead on the spot, confirming that someone was seeking revenge against the Huang family. Shortly after Jiang Gusi was stabbed and the Jiang family was driven out of Xinjiang, similar incidents occurred within the Huang family, leading to suspicions that the Jiang family was behind these events. However, after investigations, no evidence was found to prove that the explosion was caused by the Jiang family, and the case was eventually dismissed. After Huang Hongbu's death, Huang Hongfa's next 2 brothers, Huang Hongming and Huang Hongxin, took over the casinos and expanded them throughout Xiangjiang County. Statistics show that from the opening of their first casino in 1991 until 2017, the Huang family had opened over 30 casinos in Xianjiang, with Huang Hongfa's being the largest. In addition to the gambling business, Huang Hongfa began expanding through official channels using underhanded and illegal methods. He was particularly interested in controlling the second commercial market in Xiliu Town, Xiangjiang, which was home to many merchants and abundant freshwater fish resources. Li Danhua had been operating a freshwater fish business at the second commercial market since the 1990s, and after more than a decade of development, it had become a successful enterprise. Huang Hongfa, seeking a monopoly on the freshwater fish market, viewed Li Danhua as an obstacle and had her threatened multiple times, but to no avail. As a result, Huang Hongfa targeted Li Danhua's son, Shi Shengtuan, a third-year student. On Saturday, September 16, 2000, Shi Shengtuan, then 17 years old, skipped school and went out with friends. 2 of Huang Hongfa's subordinates lured Shi to a remote location and assaulted him. They claimed that the reason for beating Shi Shengtuan was due to his mother's freshwater fish business. Shi tried to escape and run, but they pursued him relentlessly. One of Huang Hongfa's subordinates stabbed Shi 7 times, causing fatal injuries. Before passing away, Shi grasped his mother's hand tightly and told her how he had been threatened and that they intended to target his 2 younger siblings as well. Li Danhua was devastated by the loss of her son and understood that Huang Hongfa was untouchable in Xiangjiang. In fact, the locals had nicknamed him Secretary Huang, with some even saying that Huang Hongfa was the secretary of Xianjiang. During the day, he acted as the de facto leader of the party, but by night he ruled over the entire Xiangjiang area. To ensure the safety of her 2 remaining children, Li Danhua decided to leave the freshwater fish business. She sent her 2 children abroad for their education and instructed them never to return to Xianjiang. However, Li Danhua and her husband did not leave, as they still wanted to seek justice for their deceased son. They filed complaints and traveled through various cities and districts in search of justice. Eventually, one of Huang Hongfa's subordinates, Chen Jiang, surrendered, but Liu Yuexing, the one who stabbed Shi Shengtuan, was not arrested until 9 years later, when he was caught for theft in Haikou. Throughout the process of seeking justice, Li Danhua and her husband did not dare to openly accuse Huang Hongfa, despite knowing that he and his close friend Wen Hai were the masterminds behind the crime. Li Danhua knew that even if she filed charges, she couldn't touch them as they were infamous for their cruelty and dominance. The name Huang Hongfa became taboo in Xiangjiang and throughout Chinese society at the time. If anyone went after him, they would undoubtedly face trouble or worse, meet an unjust death. Not only did Li Danhua's family become his victims, but the Huang family also summoned hundreds of thugs to seize control of the second market in Xiliu Town. Urchants who refused their demands were threatened, beaten, and verbally abused, leading to many violent confrontations. The Huang family succeeded in controlling the market through illegal means. The people left helpless, dared not resist their oppression. They were forced to either retreat or comply with the Huang family's management, paying exorbitant fees for their stalls. Even though the government intervened to order the Huang family to leave the market, but they did not comply with the court's ruling. Instead, they sent over 100 thugs to attack and destroy the market, injuring many people. Even the director of the court enforcement agency handling the case was threatened for over a year. Besides its abundant freshwater fish resources, Xiangjiang was also blessed with the largest iron ore mine in China. After gaining control of the market, Huang Hongfa didn't stop at freshwater fish, but also turned to the iron ore business. On December 20th, 2000, he established Hongqi Industrial Company Limited. Although the company appeared legitimate, but in reality, all its activities were illegal. They used legal loopholes to gain access to Shangjiang Shiliu Iron Mine, the largest iron mine in China. Huang Hongfa had no legal rights to mine, but he found a way. He bought iron ore and resold it, hiring employees from Hainan Iron and Steel Company to act as the company's general managers. Huang Hongfa then leveraged his family's financial backing to bribe security personnel and corrupt staff at Hainan Iron and Steel Company, enabling him to conduct parallel smuggling. Every time they passed through a checkpoint, a portion of the iron ore was skimmed off. This embezzlement was a form of stealing national assets. It is estimated that through this method, Huang Hongfa illegally earned at least tens of millions of yuan. The contract was for only 10,000 tons, but it was inflated to 50,000 tons. How could he not make money from that? Of course, Huang Hongfa eventually realized that illegal assets would one day become a threat to him, so he started working for his own protection. He purchased the Saha cement plant in Hainan province for 19.7 million yuan to establish the Saha cement branch of Xiangjiang Hongqi Industrial Company. Limited after becoming chairman, Huang Hongfa continued to assign the former plant director to manage it. Together, they used legal means to carry out illegal activities, using part of the plant's profits to develop and expand their underground organization. The Huang family established an illegal monopoly on sand and gravel mining to sell concrete in Xiangjiang County. They created an industrial chain beyond the major industries in Xiangjiang. The Huang family's profits didn't just come from waste recycling. The entertainment industry, fireworks, civil construction, motorcycle sales, and many other sectors, they also included a variety of other businesses. Naturally, this led to many enemies. To protect his illegal assets, Huang Hongfa upgraded his gang by building a base near his home, where he raised a large number of tough henchmen. Additionally, he hired combat instructors to provide special training for his subordinates. To manage the large number of thugs, the Huang family implemented clear rules and regulations. To strengthen organizational cohesion and loyalty, Huang Hongfa used part of the profits from the Saha cement plant to subsidize his subordinates monthly. Members received wages, social insurance, and allowances. If any members committed crimes, the organization would arrange for their escape. If convicted, the group would attempt to reduce their sentences or avoid punishment after their release. The members were financially supported and provided with jobs, and this comprehensive service allowed a large number of people to join the Huang family's gang. In an effort to clean up his image, Huang Hongfa decided to manage the entire family's industries through corporate oversight. He continuously worked at dozens of companies established in Xiangjiang, Haikou, and other locations. These industries included mining, real estate, pawn shops, entertainment, catering, and many others. After these activities, Huang Hongfa transformed into a legitimate businessman. At that time, the Huang family became the dominant force in Xiangjiang after gaining control over a significant amount of wealth and social resources. The family began to interfere with or illegally control many industries in the Xiangjiang area, either through shareholding or directly engaging in operations. By then, everyone in Xiangjiang knew the rules, and Huang Hongfa was regarded as the king of Xiangjiang. He became the ultimate decision-maker there. The first thing anyone wanting to do business in Xiangjiang had to do wasn't to apply for a business license, but to get Huang Hongfa's approval. In June 2008, Huang Hongfa's cousin, Li Xiangguang, established Xiangjiang Hongwen Resource Recycling Company. The goal of this company was to monopolize the entire waste recycling industry in Xiangjiang. Of course, this was only possible due to Huang Hongfa's power. In a short time, the waste recycling industry in Xiangjiang was completely under Li Xiangguang's control, and it lasted for 7 years. On July 29, 2015, the Xiangjiang Autonomous District Chamber of Commerce signed an agreement with Xiangjiang Hongwen Company to terminate their contract. Although it appeared that Li Xiangguang was the one controlling the entire waste recycling industry, but the real power behind him was Huang Hongfa. The two were not only closely connected, but also had significant economic ties, and dealing with these recycling companies was no simple task. On June 14, 2009, an internal conflict occurred within Huang Hongfa's underground organization. Li Guochun, a subordinate of Huang Hongfa, was beaten by Zhao Chengfan, a subordinate of Huang Hongming, Huang Hongfa's fourth brother, for showing him disrespect. Huang Hongfa instructed 3 of his trusted associates, Fu Zheng, Wen Hai, and Zhang Fuwen, to teach Zhao Chengfan a lesson. Shortly after, a large-scale armed fight broke out involving over 100 people at Zhao Chengfan's house and in the surrounding areas. During the fight, Lin Haidao, a 26-year-old known for his pork business, tragically lost his life. Lin Haidao had returned to Xiangjiang to help his parents with their business, but unfortunately, he was killed on the streets. His parents were devastated by the loss of their son. They knew that their son had died at the hands of Huang Hongfa's illegal organization, but they felt powerless, fearing Huang Hongfa's name, as no one in the local area dared to challenge his power. After this incident, Huang Hongfa tried to cover it up by falsifying interrogation records and erasing all references to himself through bribery. He also sent 600,000 yuan to Lin Haidao's parents as hush money, simultaneously threatening them that, whether they liked it or not, they had to forgive Huang Hongfa. Powerless, they had no choice but to comply. However, Huang Hongfa couldn't save his comrades. 2 of his trusted associates, Fu Zheng and Wen Hai, were sentenced to 6 and 7 years in prison respectively. But in reality, they only served 2 years before being released on early parole thanks to Huang Hongfa's influence. After their release, Huang Hongfa spent another 1 million yuan in bribes to secure their freedom. On September 17, 2012, Huang Hongfa ordered a group of thugs to attack the Wenzhou Yi Clan Entertainment Club in Shiliu Town, Xiangjiang County. After brutally beating the staff, they left. The reason for the attack was a simple dispute between the club's employees and Huang Hongfa's people. Incidents like this were countless in Xiangjiang. Any conflict with the Huang family would result in a gang of thugs being sent to attack. They often carried knives and axes, destroying everything in sight. In 2012, Huang Hongfa's father, Huang Yingxiang, wanted to buy the orchard belonging to Zhang Anzuang, the owner of the fruit orchard. However, Zhang Anzuang didn't want to sell it to the Huang family. So, Huang Yingxiang used forceful measures to compel Zhang Anzuang to transfer the orchard. Zhang Anzuang was forced to sign a contract transferring 7.98 mu, about 1.32 acres, of orchard to Huang Hongfa for just over 170,000 yuan. Only a year later, in October 2013, the Xiangjiang County government reclaimed the orchard land and granted more than 14.25 million yuan in compensation for the expropriated land. It was a deal far more profitable than any million-dollar business venture. Over the course of 30 years in Xiangjiang, Huang Hongfa and his family, along with their gang, committed countless crimes across the region. Everyone despised their actions, yet no one dared to speak up or voice their grievances against the injustice. In the eyes of the public, Huang Hongfa was the local emperor of Xiangjiang, and to live well, people always had to bow to the Huang family. The tentacles of the Huang family's octopus-like network had reached deeply into the ranks of Chinese officials. Some officials had become protectors and accomplices of the Huang family. For years, Huang Hongfa sought illegal protection and spent vast amounts of money bribing corrupt officials during his operations. Government agencies such as the Public Security Bureau, the Commerce Bureau, the Market Supervision Bureau, the Water Resources Bureau, the Land Department, and others in the lower Xinjiang area had all fallen under the control of the Huang family's influence. As a result, the Huang family's position became unbeatable, and they could even infiltrate the state apparatus with ease. The truth about the crimes committed by the Huang family in Xinjiang was finally exposed. On January 6, 2019, under the direct leadership of Hainan Province's Anti-Gang and Crime Task Force, the Hainan Provincial Police deployed 1,210 officers and over 300 provincial vehicles to carry out the operation. The operation was highly successful, capturing the leaders Huang Hongfa, Huang Hongming, Huang Yingxiang, Huang Hongxin, and other family members, as well as key gang figures. In total, over 170 suspects were arrested by January 8, 2019. The Office of the Special Crime Task Force issued a public notice condemning the crimes of Huang Hongfa's gang, urging fleeing criminals and officials involved in the case to surrender. However, 45 suspects from Huang Hongfa's gang were still at large, though within a week most of them gradually turned themselves in. Despite this, many victims still feared reporting the crimes or pursuing legal procedures due to the threat of retaliation. On April 23, 2019, the Hainan Provincial Anti-Crime Task Force decided to demolish the illegally built Lanjin building belonging to Huang Hongfa in Xinjiang to demonstrate their determination to crack down on crime and restore the credibility of the local government and judicial agencies. During that time, the task force received numerous reports from the public. The crimes committed by Huang Hongfa's criminal organization over the past 30 years were so despicable that they required trucks to transport the evidence. When the police delivered the case files to the prosecution office, over 1,000 case files were piled onto trucks. The amount of illegally obtained assets was as terrifying as a small mountain, with even more assets yet to be seized. The total value of assets involved reached 2.53 billion yuan. Although Huang Hongfa's gang-related organization had been dismantled, but the trial process still posed significant challenges. This case exemplified the difficulties of investigation and interrogation. It was one of the largest gang-related cases ever since Hainan Province was established. After more than a year of painstaking investigation, evidence gathering, and interrogation, all the criminal details of the members of Huang Hongfa's vast criminal organization were uncovered. The nature of the crimes and the severity of their consequences were enormous. Huang Hongfa held the top position in the organization, wielding real power and serving as the backbone of the entire operation. On November 22, 2019, the case was finally brought to trial. Due to the complexity and scale of the case involving over 200 individuals, it was divided into 4 separate trials held simultaneously across 4 courts with 4 different judges. The trial lasted a total of 27 days, with each session running nearly 10 hours a day. The Hainan Provincial Intermediate People's Court Number 1 found Huang Hongfa guilty of 16 charges, including organizing and leading a criminal organization, intentional injury, and other crimes. He was sentenced to death, stripped of his political rights for life, and all his personal assets were confiscated. Huang Hongfa's father, his second brother Huang Yingxiang, Huang Hongxin, and several others were sentenced to prison terms ranging from 25 years to life imprisonment. 7 officials allied with Huang Hongfa, including the former standing committee member of the Xinjiang Autonomous District Party Committee, the former head of the district's Public Security Bureau, and the former deputy district judge, were charged with sheltering and colluding with criminal organizations, taking bribes and abusing power. They received sentences ranging from 15 to 25 years in prison. Notably, it took nearly a full day to read the indictment. and the final judgment spanned more than 2,480 pages. However, Huang Hongfa did not accept the initial verdict and filed an appeal with the Hainan Supreme Court. The Hainan Provincial High People's Court upheld the original ruling and submitted the case to the Supreme People's Court for review according to legal procedures. On January 30th, 2020, the Supreme People's Court carried out the death sentence against Huang Hongfa in Xiangjiang County. This gang-related case, the largest in terms of participants, scope, and public attention since the establishment of Hainan Province, was finally resolved. The fight against gangs and organized crime has seen significant achievements over the past 3 years. Although the national 3-year special campaign against gangs and crime has officially ended, but it does not mean the crackdown on gangs and crime has ceased. Of course, evil is something that always exists alongside our lives. However, after all the negativity and darkness, what remains is hope. And with that hope, we can trust that as long as evil exists, it will always be eradicated by the good, until not a single trace remains. Have you ever heard mysterious stories about the underworld? Notorious kingpins with vast fortunes? If you've heard but don't know the name Liu Han, the man who once manipulated China's markets, that's truly unfortunate. The man crying in court is Liu Han, one of the wealthiest figures in China. When it comes to the underworld, people often think of Liu Huaqiang, but what we are about to learn about Liu Han is even more terrifying. He specialized in business operations, running networks spanning finance, securities, energy, politics, and real estate, with a total fortune amounting to 40 billion yuan, equivalent to $5.6 billion. At 3 p.m. on January 10, 2009, 3 people were tragically shot dead in Guanghan, Sichuan province, while 2 others were injured by stray bullets. The entire incident lasted less than a minute as the shooter fired and fled the scene. Shortly after, a special task force was established to investigate, and 2 suspects, Yuan Shaolin and Zhang Donghua, were quickly apprehended. However, in reality, these 2 were just hired gunmen, and the mastermind behind it all was Liu Wei. Liu Wei, standing around 1.7 meters tall, was the owner of Guanghan Yiwan Industrial, a well-known private enterprise. Within an hour, the police had a full dossier and issued a warrant for Liu Wei's arrest. The authorities quickly tracked down Liu Wei's hideout, but something strange happened. Every time a new lead came in and the task force was ready to strike, Liu Wei mysteriously and swiftly disappeared right before the police could act. Even after 4 years, they couldn't capture him alive. Once or twice could be written off as coincidence, but every single time he slipped away, it became clear that someone on the inside was shielding and tipping him off. Whoever it was, it certainly wasn't an ordinary person. To uncover the truth, the police decided to dig deeper into Liu Wei's background. He was already a well-known figure, locally having committed several crimes before without being caught. He quickly rose to become a big boss. In Sichuan, another big shot emerged who could stir up the winds and rain, none other than Liu Han, Liu Wei's elder brother. So it was no coincidence that Liu Wei consistently managed to evade police control. Liu Han used his special connections to precisely spy on the task force's actions and relay that information to Liu Wei. As the investigation delved deeper into this sinister conspiracy, Liu Han wasn't just suspected of harboring a fugitive, he was possibly leading a major criminal organization. In other words, Liu Han was the big fish, the real kingpin. On March 13, 2013, a major breakthrough occurred when Liu Wei was officially arrested. 4 days later, the police successfully apprehended another associate of Liu Wei in Guanghan. After capturing these 2, more than 30 other suspects connected to the gang were subsequently arrested. The Ministry of Public Security decided to expand the investigation and prosecution. The case was later taken over by the police in Hubei's Xianing province, where an elite investigative team was assembled from across the country. They uncovered even more shocking truths, not just the 2009 shooting, but numerous unsolved crimes in the area directly linked to the Liu brothers. Since 1993, this gang had been involved in violent attacks that resulted in 7 deaths and multiple injuries. Liu Han alone was implicated in over a dozen crimes, yet this criminal figure had always remained above the law. He refused to cooperate with the investigation, spouting nonsense. "Talk about me? The Hubei police are neither competent nor authorized to handle this." His attitude was arrogant and disdainful, making it difficult to extract any useful information from his statements. Only solid evidence would be able to bring this scoundrel to justice. By May 2013, the investigative team from Hubei arrived in Sichuan to investigate and gather evidence, but the situation was far from simple. The local residents there were too terrified to even mention the Liu brothers by name. They expressed understanding for the police's difficulties, but were deeply concerned for their own safety and that of their families. No one could be certain when the Liu brothers would finally be caught, as they were more brazen than ever. As a result, there were no useful leads for the police. Thus, the authorities had to patiently encourage and reassure the people, making promises to bring down the Liu empire. Over the next 10 months, after relentless efforts, the long-oppressed residents finally chose to stand up. An increasing number of tips began flowing into the Hubei Special Task Force. The true faces of the Liu brothers, especially Liu Han, gradually came into focus. Liu Han was born in 1965 in Guanghan, Sichuan province, to parents who were both teachers. As the eldest of 4 siblings, he grew up fast, but became addicted to video games early on. His second sister, Liu Xiaobin, once served as the financial director in Liu Han's business, and the youngest was Liu Wei. In 1985, Liu Han was just a regular factory worker, but quit in 1986 to pursue the gold rush. With his natural intelligence, he immediately came up with a plan to get rich by selling wood. However, his cleverness was misused, becoming a springboard for his heinous crimes. Liu Han earned his first fortune by reselling wood, and after tasting success, he became increasingly bold. By 1993, he had expanded into the timber market, dealing in large quantities, quickly amassing a substantial fortune. With this money, Liu Han sought to further develop his empire by forging relationships in politics and business. For example, he would gift expensive jewelry worth anywhere from hundreds of thousands to millions of yuan, or deliberately lose money in gambling instead of offering bribes. His career skyrocketed, but his success and showiness also earned him many enemies. On February 1, 1997, while moving through the lobby of the Xiangyuan Hotel in Guanghan, Liu Han was unexpectedly attacked. 2 bullets grazed past him, but fortunately no one was injured. The person who hired the assassin was none other than Liu Han's business rival, Yuan Baojing, chairman of a construction company. Before arriving in Guanghan, Liu Han had already dominated the market with a future that seemed unstoppable. He quickly leveraged all his relationships and power to manipulate and reshape market rules to his advantage. As a result, Yuan Baojing suffered losses of more than 90 million yuan. Knowing the shady dealings behind it all, Yuan was determined to eliminate Liu Han and settle the grudge in his heart. At that time, there were no surveillance cameras, so the shooter brazenly opened fire. It took the police considerable time to confirm Yuan Baojing's guilt. Later, due to internal disputes, Yuan hired another assassin, which resulted in the death of a man named Liu Han. On January 13, 2005, Yuan Baojing was sentenced to death. Before his execution, Yuan donated assets worth around $49.5 billion to the state. Some say he was trying to save his own life, but the outcome remained unchanged. On March 17, 2006, Yuan Baojing was executed by lethal injection. He became the first person in China to be executed by this method, dying slowly by poison. Returning to our main figure, after his clash with Yuan Baojing, though Liu Han had escaped death, but he became extremely concerned about his personal safety. He entrusted his younger brother, Liu Wei, with his protection, equipping him with pistols and other weapons. One thing that can be acknowledged is the strong unity between the brothers. Liu Han orchestrated things behind the scenes, while Liu Wei handled obstacles and formed a special force to ensure their control. In March 1997, a month after the shooting, Liu Han invested 99.98 million yuan to establish the Sichuan Hanlong Group in Mianyang. However, the head of the company was not Liu Han himself, but his younger brother, Liu Shan. Liu Han also set up a security unit within Hanlong, recruiting idle individuals from society to offer them stable employment. In 1998, Liu Han's company expanded into real estate development in Xiaodao Village, Shanxiu County, Mianyang City. Due to compensation disputes over demolitions, tensions with the villagers escalated. On August 13th, a group of Liu Han's subordinates was sent to clear obstacles, resulting in the tragic stabbing death of one villager. Later, to gain control of the gambling and gaming market, Liu Wei ordered his men to assassinate a competitor on the street. In early 1999, another mafia figure threatened to blow up Hanlong's bowling alley. Upon hearing this, Liu Han immediately sent assassins to deal with the problem. He then used all his connections to cover up these horrific crimes. Liu Han quickly became the mafia boss in both Guanghan and Mianyang. Those unfortunate enough to cross him often fled the region. It is estimated that more than 100 people were terrorized by Liu Han's gang, though most were too afraid to file any complaints. Just hearing Liu Han's name was enough to instill fear. In 2008, Chen Fuwei, a mob boss from Guanghan, was released from prison and threatened revenge against the Liu brothers. As a result, Liu Wei ordered his men to deal with Fuwei. Liu Wei reportedly said, "I'll handle everything." After 2000, Liu Han expanded his empire without limit. Whenever a lucrative project appeared, his greed surfaced and he sought to monopolize it. If competitors emerged, he would intimidate them into giving up. Anyone who dared to oppose him would face severe consequences, either being beaten to the point of being unable to care for themselves, or simply disappearing entirely. Liu Han operated under the mantra of using money to pave the way and guns to clear obstacles. At his peak, Liu Han's total assets exceeded $40 billion, and his lifestyle was extraordinarily lavish. Even an ordinary meal would cost tens of thousands of yuan, and his most extravagant meals could cost over 800,000 yuan. Liu Han owned a luxury car collection featuring dozens of top-tier vehicles, each worth a fortune lined up in a massive warehouse. He frequently drove a Rolls-Royce worth over 13 million yuan, parading as the chairman of the board of his company. Under his leadership, Hanlong Group became the largest private enterprise in Sichuan. Liu Han himself was elected as a member and standing member of the Sichuan Provincial People's Political Consultative Conference, CPPCC, for 3 consecutive terms. He received more than 20 individual awards and was even once described by Forbes as a true billionaire. Continuing with the case, in May 2013, the police began focusing on gathering and verifying evidence, though the investigation faced numerous challenges. According to one dataset, more than 400 police officers traveled over 100,000 kilometers across half of China, interrogated more than 600 individuals, and collected over 1,000 witness testimonies. On March 31, 2014, a total of 36 individuals, including Liu Han and Liu Wei, were present at a public trial held at the Hubei Intermediate People's Court in Hamin, all related to a series of cases involving the Liu gang. Liu Han was provided with a hearing aid due to hearing issues, and a cushion was placed on his chair for comfort. These considerations were made because of his health, and a team of renowned lawyers and scholars was assembled to defend him. All of this was intended to ensure that Liu Han's organization would ultimately bow in submission to justice. In court, the prosecutors presented a substantial amount of physical evidence supported by the testimonies of 1,480 witnesses. Liu Han's attitude was dismissive, only offering the vague phrase, "I don't know." In response to the accusations, he only admitted to protecting his brother, Liu Wei, out of familial loyalty. He denied all charges related to violent crimes. His defenses were full of sophistry and had no relevance to his actual guilt. The prosecutor took advantage of the situation and revealed the locations of Liu Han's illegal gambling operations. According to the testimony of a bodyguard, from May to October 2008, Liu Han frequently organized gambling at a private club. He pumped money into these operations and provided loans on the spot, earning millions of dollars in illegal revenue. Amid this frenzied wealth, since 2008, Liu Han fabricated fake loan projects, false sales contracts, and other schemes to defraud banks and other financial institutions into granting him large loans. The total amount was over 3.8 billion yuan, plus an additional $140 million. Faced with such solid evidence, Liu Han could not simply deny his guilt. The prosecutor also presented an extensive array of physical evidence, including 20 guns and 677 rounds of ammunition displayed in court. More than 100 controlled knives were linked to the case, and Liu Han's employees testified that these weapons belonged to the gang. The prosecutor then read the testimony of Liu Han, a key member of Liu Han's gang. Liu Han was the legal representative of the Hanlong group, a company tied to the gang that both brothers founded to recruit thugs. At this point, Liu Han began his final resistance. The court officers wheeled Liu Han into the courtroom as he was an important witness despite his frail appearance. Liu Han was shocked by the sudden betrayal of his once closest ally. Next, the testimony of Liu Han's first wife, surnamed Yang, who had married him in 1997 and lived with him for 16 years, confirmed several criminal activities of the Liu Han gang. By this time, Liu Han had fallen into a state of despair, no longer continuing his sophistry. Although he never fully admitted his crimes with nearly 1,500 witnesses, including those close to him, the verdict was finally reached. On May 23, 2014, the Intermediate People's Court of Hamen, Hubei Province, handed down the first instance verdict. Liu Han and Liu Wei, the leaders of the criminal underworld organization, were sentenced to death, and all of their personal assets were confiscated. Of the 36 other defendants, 5 received prison sentences, 5 received suspended sentences, 4 were sentenced to life imprisonment, and 22 were imprisoned, including those who had accepted bribes from Liu Han. In August 2014, Liu Han and his younger brother Liu Wei were sentenced to death, marking the downfall of the Notorious gang in Sichuan, China. On February 9, 2015, Liu Han was executed, bringing relief and joy to the families of the victims and those who had suffered under his reign. Some villagers even set off fireworks to celebrate. Before his execution, Liu Han uttered his final words, "I regret it." But by then, it was far too late. On the evening of February 5th, 2018, during what seemed like an ordinary night, Leslie and Pamela Montenegro, a talented YouTuber, were enjoying dinner with her husband when suddenly 2 armed men stormed into the restaurant. With cold, emotionless faces, they ordered 2 beers as if nothing was suspicious. But moments later, everything turned into a nightmare when they drew their guns and fired 3 shots into Leslie's head, leaving behind a scene of horror. This was just one of the tragic cases among the 5 YouTubers who were brutally murdered by Mexican drug cartels. On December 18th, 2017, with the final night of the year approaching, popular Mexican YouTuber Juan Luis Laguna Rosales was having a wild night out with friends at a local bar. However, no one could have imagined that tragedy was lurking right at the doorstep. As lively music played and laughter echoed throughout the place, suddenly a gang of gunmen stormed in and brutally shot him. Born in Culiacan, Laguna had a difficult childhood, abandoned by his parents at a young age and raised by his grandmother. At 15, he left his hometown without finishing high school, determined to move to Culiacan to seek a better life. He started by doing odd jobs like washing cars, and from there, he found his identity. Alacrán de Culiacán. As Laguna's life began to stabilize, he started sharing videos on YouTube, exploring and showcasing his unique lifestyle. His fun and colorful clips quickly caught the attention of young audiences, and soon, he received many invitations to attend major events. His newfound fame made Laguna boast about his wild adventures on social media. Videos featuring drinking and partying quickly went viral, making him a YouTube sensation. With popularity came perks from appearing in music videos to promotional events. His youthful image and crazy antics made him a beloved figure. But amidst the spotlight, he became an easy target. The poor young man forgot that he was just a boy trying to find his place in a ruthless world. To appear more mature, he decided to draw a beard and tattoo both of his arms, a pirate on one side and a tiger on the other. Laguna often took selfies surrounded by large guns, glamorous girls, and luxury cars. Even though the legal drinking age in Mexico was 18, he lived as if there were no rules, believing he was invincible. But life soon taught him a harsh lesson: no one is truly safe when they cross the wrong people. At one party, Laguna wore red, proudly flaunting his lavish lifestyle. As his pride soared, he came up with a shocking idea: to make a video insulting El Mencho, a name that struck fear in people's hearts, the leader of CJNG, a notorious drug cartel known for brutal violence and thousands of murders. El Mencho was Mexico's most wanted man and one of the top fugitives in the U.S. He was someone you should never mess with. But Laguna seemed to disagree with that. Just days after releasing the mocking video, a gang of gunmen stormed the bar where he was partying with friends in Jalisco. They fired no less than 18 bullets into him, leaving his body in such a horrific state that the police could only identify him by the tattoos on his body. Ironically, Laguna's death was not a lesson for those who live on the fringes of the law. Unfortunately, Alacrán de Culiacán was not the last victim of the tragic fate awaiting those who dare to challenge El Mencho's power. On April 18, 2022, Mexican YouTuber Jorge Luis, also known as El Compa Jorge, was shot dead right in front of his home in the Guadalupe Victoria neighborhood of Culiacán, Sinaloa. That day, Jorge was full of energy, planning to head to the bank, and cheerfully shared this information with his 30,000 Instagram followers. He wrote, "Good morning, everyone. Hope you're having a great start to your week. We're done with the holidays and back to work. I'm on my way to the bank to see how long the line is. Best wishes to all of you. Have a great day." However, about 45 minutes later, at 1:45 p.m., fate struck. A group of gunmen appeared without hesitation, shooting Jorge right in front of his home. Horrified witnesses recounted that the armed men arrived at the scene in a brand new gray Toyota SUV. They blocked the road, giving Jorge no chance, and fired more than 10 shots at him. After the attack, they immediately fled in the same vehicle, leaving behind panic and devastation. Emergency responders quickly arrived at the scene, rushing to provide medical aid to Jorge, who had suffered numerous severe injuries. Despite all efforts, but sadly, he passed away while being transported to the hospital. Doctors confirmed his death, and the question on everyone's mind was, why would anyone target Jorge, a mild-mannered and humble YouTuber? When Jorge started his YouTube channel, he simply posted vlogs and storytelling videos. Gradually, he found his passion and began creating content related to luxury cars and his personal UTV collection. But the flashy lifestyle, with expensive cars, brought not only fame, but also envious glances and unwanted attention. It is well known that cartels are not only notorious for silencing the media, but also for acts of kidnapping and extortion. That's exactly what happened to Jorge, an unimaginable tragedy for someone who lived for his passion. In 2021, Jorge opened up about a horrifying event he never thought he would face. In a video on his channel, he recounted being kidnapped by a drug cartel he dared not name. The fear from that experience haunted his mind, causing him to avoid going out for months. Even ordinary situations, like stopping at a red light, made him feel nervous, as if he were standing on the edge of danger. In that video, he revisited the place where he had been kidnapped, though his heart was heavy as he did so. The incident occurred one evening when Jorge was out having fun with a friend. His friend asked him to give a few acquaintances a ride, and with his friendly nature, he agreed without hesitation. However, as soon as the car started moving, unease began to stir within him. The drinks he had earlier made him feel nauseous, and he urgently needed to use the bathroom. Unable to wait any longer, He pulled over and stepped out of the car, completely unaware that fate was lurking nearby. At that moment, in a crazed instant, another car came speeding from a distance. A man with a rifle stepped out, his face menacing, and before Jorge could understand what was happening, the man snatched both of his phones. But that was just the beginning of the nightmare. Jorge was dragged into the car, where several accomplices were waiting. They tied his hands, blindfolded him, and began interrogating him, demanding that he explain the source of his wealth. Jorge frantically replied, "I only own a small tortilla shop." However, given the expensive car he was driving, the kidnappers couldn't believe that an ordinary man like him could be that wealthy. Their suspicion grew, and they accused him of being connected to a rival gang. Jorge was terrified, realizing that his life hung by a thread. Still, the kidnappers didn't believe him and began to torture him. They took turns hitting him over the head with the barrels of their guns, making it clear that they could take his life at any moment. With no way out, Jorge collapsed, pleading one last time. He begged, clinging to a fragile hope. "If you're going to kill me, please leave my body somewhere my family can find it." Miraculously, that plea seemed to touch the kidnappers' hearts, or perhaps they realized that Jorge really had no ties to any gangs. In the end, a surprising decision was made. They let him go, though he had survived the nightmare, but this wouldn't be the last time Jorge mentioned the cartels in his videos. In a later video, he claimed to have met and spoken with one of El Chapo's sons. However, after Jorge was killed, rumors began to circulate that this video had caught the attention of rivals to the Culiacan cartel. They suspected that Jorge had connections with El Chapitos, which is why they targeted him. Many wondered why he remained in the same state, even in the same country, after that terrifying experience. Returning to the crime scene, and even filming a video, there was truly a reckless decision. Perhaps people were right, for in Mexico, victims of kidnapping rarely escape brutality, even if they survive. On December 31st, 2022, Ruben Ortega, known in Mexico as Super Chinelo, returned home after a long day with his wife and their 4-year-old son. But in that moment of happiness, he couldn't have known that tragedy was lurking just ahead. As he stepped out of his car to open the gate, a group of hidden gunmen launched a sudden, unprovoked attack. Gunshots tore through the peaceful air, and in the blink of an eye, Ruben's life was stolen. The ruthless bullets not only ended his life, but also left his wife gravely injured. Though their young son was unharmed, but witnessing the horrific scene, his father being murdered before his eyes, left a psychological scar that would never heal. The sound of gunfire shook the entire neighborhood, and neighbors immediately called 911 before rushing to the scene in a panic. When they arrived, all they found was a heartbreaking sight. A famous YouTuber lying motionless, blood spilling from his body. Super Chinelo's death quickly spread across social media, and a sorrowful message was shared on his Facebook page. Unfortunately, it's true. Our friend Ruben Ortega has passed away. Thank you all for your support. Before his untimely death, Super Chinelo was a man passionate about Mexican culture, known for his videos showcasing the traditional dances of the Morelos region. He often live-streamed festivals, wearing his signature red mask, and through his creativity and love for culture, Ruben became a beloved figure in the community. Yet those who murdered him remain in the shadows, leaving no trace of their identities. Some speculate that Ruben's outspoken criticism of the corrupt government and drug cartels may have been the reason for his tragic death. Amid the escalating violence caused by rampant gangs, Ruben's death sent shockwaves through society. People not only mourned the loss of a respected figure, but also raged at the brutality of the crime and the government's lack of effort in protecting citizens from this explosion of violence. Super Chinelo, with his bright smile and passionate spirit, has now become a symbol of the injustice and suffering endured by many in a country fraught with danger. In the perilous world of organized crime in Mexico, every step is fraught with risk, and the notorious assassin known as La Cholita was no exception to this harsh reality. This formidable woman was not just a member of one, but two of Mexico's most infamous gangs, La Nueva Familia Michoacana and the Los Viagras cartel. However, it was her bold social media posts and YouTube videos that ultimately shaped her dramatic fate. La Cholita, known as Lucy Cruz on one social media account, and Castillo Hernandez on another, used these platforms to post videos and photos where she brazenly taunted and provoked the CJNG cartel, her most dangerous enemy. She even dared to publicly insult their leader. In one of her final videos in November 2020, Cholita criticized CJNG members, calling them cowards for abandoning a truck loaded with weapons. This audacity could not go unnoticed. Shortly after the release of that video, Cholita disappeared without a trace. No clues, no news, nothing. It was as if she had vanished into thin air, leaving those who knew her in a state of extreme worry. Now, the biggest question on their minds is, what really happened to Cholita? Did she meet a tragic end at the hands of the CJNG, like those who insulted El Mencho before and never lived to tell the tale? Or is she being held captive somewhere, awaiting her grim fate to be decided? The harsh reality is, we may never know, but one thing is certain. When you challenge El Mencho, you cannot expect a good outcome. On February 5th, 2018, a bloody tragedy unfolded in the beautiful seaside city of Acapulco. Leslie Ann Pamela Montenegro, a talented journalist, sharp satirist, and social media content creator known as Bamaga, was ruthlessly gunned down by two unidentified shooters. The horrifying event took place at a restaurant Montenegro co-owned with her husband, a place that had witnessed many of their happy memories. The attackers walked into the establishment calmly, ordering a few beers as if nothing was happening. But moments later, they pulled out their guns, shooting Montenegro in the face and stomach before quickly fleeing, leaving behind a scene of chaos, horror, and bloodshed. What led to such a cruel act? At 36, Montenegro was a creative and vibrant spirit. She ran a popular satirical YouTube channel and an online news magazine called El Sillon. However, she was best known for her character La Nana Pelucas, a quirky figure with curly black wigs, bright red lipstick, and thick glasses. Her eccentric persona attracted attention, and she often visited local supermarkets in humorous outfits, bringing laughter to the community. Through her La Nana Pelucas character, Leslie bravely released politically charged videos, fearlessly criticizing and exposing the corruption of officials in Acapulco. However, standing up against politicians and criminal gangs in Mexico is no small feat. Her criticisms may have cost her life. Sadly, in Mexico, freedom of speech and a free press are luxuries that few can enjoy. Since the year 2000, approximately 145 journalists have been brutally murdered. Leslie quickly caught the attention of an independent gang in Acapulco, and that was where her nightmare began. She started receiving terrifying threats with banners accusing her of working against the gang appearing near her restaurant. Although Leslie denied all the accusations and insisted that the information she shared was credible, her attackers did not relent. On December 4th, 2016, Acapulco was covered in drug banners, carrying threatening messages from the gang targeting various individuals, including Montenegro. The banner even alleged that she managed a Facebook page called Denuncias Acapulco Sin Censura, which allowed citizens to report on crime and corruption. After Leslie was killed, the Attorney General of Guerrero, Javier Olea, confirmed that she did indeed manage the page, which had its last post in October 2017. Was anyone arrested? On August 28, 2018, a suspect known as Moises Montero Alvarez was arrested at a hotel along the Acapulco coast. He had been linked to several other violent crimes, but the charges were later dropped due to lack of evidence. In 2020, the case resurfaced when prosecutors announced the arrest of Edgar Saul, also known as El Pipa, the second in command of the independent Acapulco gang, accused of killing Montenegro. Ultimately, Leslie's legacy, along with all the souls lost in pursuit of the truth, will forever stand as a powerful reminder of the importance of free and courageous journalism in a world filled with danger. In 1980, Enrique Kiki Camarena, an outstanding investigator, took on a key role in the largest drug bust in Mexican history. This case not only led to the arrest of several gang members, but also opened the door to an unimaginable nightmare that would change his life forever. This is a story of betrayal in the world of crime, epitomized by Whitey Bulger, a notorious mob boss who went on the run on December 23, 1994. He received information from FBI agent John Connolly that a RICO indictment was about to be issued against him. From that moment on, Bulger lived in the shadows for 16 years, constantly fearing the day he would be discovered. So what turned Bulger, one of the most famous organized criminals, into a fugitive? Why was an FBI agent willing to help him? These questions make this story more dramatic than ever. Growing up as a young thug in South Boston, Bulger had a childhood rife with crime from petty theft to brawls. In 1943, he was arrested at just 14 years old and spent 5 years in a juvenile facility. After being released, Bulger joined the Air Force, but soon was imprisoned for assault and was discharged from the military. Returning to South Boston, he became an informant for the FBI, helping authorities take down several rival gang members. At that time, Bulger realized he had two choices: cooperate with his gang or become a traitor. However, when he discovered that the FBI was secretly betraying him, Bulger isolated himself in the shadows for a long 16 years, including 12 years on the FBI's 10 most wanted fugitives list, just behind Osama bin Laden. In the summer of 1983, tensions between Bulger and the FBI reached a boiling point. A horrific event occurred when an employee of Coin-O-Matic, a money laundering company associated with the Patriarca crime family, was kidnapped. Boston police raided a meat shop owned by Bulger and 2 other members, where they found the employee hanging from a meat rack. The victim had been brutally tortured for over 6 days. This discovery sparked a series of brutal retaliations from the Patriarca gang, leading to the immediate trial of 3 members of the Winter Hill Gang. The gang war drew the attention of the FBI, especially John Connolly, who had protected Bulger. Finally, in October 2011, Bulger was arrested and sentenced to 2 life terms, not only for extortion, but also for involvement in 11 murders. After being incarcerated in Florida, where he believed he would spend the rest of his life without the threat of any retaliation, Bulger was unexpectedly transferred to West Virginia. Just 1 day after arriving, he was brutally murdered. Prisoners broke into his cell at 6 a.m. and beat him with a sock filled with metal locks. Bulger's death was a cruel fate for a traitor. The victim's eyes and tongue were often cut out. Throughout his time as an informant for the FBI, he had betrayed too many people, and those individuals would never forget. Bulger's story proves one thing: traitors will ultimately pay the price, and that price is their own lives. In October 2009, Frederick Jerome Cobia fell into the hands of the law when he was arrested for the brutal crime of murdering 57-year-old Desmond Dunkley in a home in South Bay. He pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and burglary, but notably, his sentencing was postponed. The reason was that Frederick had acted as an informant in nearly 20 other cases, hoping that the government would protect him through the Witness Protection Program. Frederick did not hesitate to provide information about as many criminals as possible in hopes of avoiding prison or returning to life on the streets. He contacted lawyers, even calling in seasoned prosecutors and top police detectives to testify on his behalf. They all praised his cooperation with law enforcement, claiming that he not only helped put dangerous criminals behind bars, but also saved the life of a female officer by revealing a plot to assassinate her in prison. Judge Joseph Marks was taken aback during the trial. The prosecutor seemed to present a better defense for Frederick than his own attorney. He acknowledged, "I have never encountered a case like this in my 30 years of practicing law." However, the support Frederick received from law enforcement officials could not conceal his extensive and violent criminal record, especially the way he brutally killed Desmond Dunkley. He had tied the victim to a chair, savagely beaten him in the face with the butt of a pistol before shooting him twice to ensure he was dead, then fled with the drugs he had stolen. Defense attorney Valeria suggested a 10-year sentence, But the judge could not accept this because it would mean Frederick would be free immediately. In the end, at the age of 47, Frederick was sentenced to 40 years in prison, meaning he could spend the rest of his life behind bars until he was over 70. In November 2008, Pedro and Margarito Flores, better known as the Flores twins, were arrested by the DEA in a major drug bust in Chicago. Immediately after their arrest, they faced a life-or-death choice: betray their enemies or accept spending the rest of their lives in prison. However, they chose not just anyone, they chose the godfather of the drug world, El Chapo. These two brothers had started their drug trafficking careers at the age of 7, learning how to transport goods across the border, choosing safe routes, and moving discreetly. By the age of 17, they were involved in cocaine trafficking and earned profits of over $1 million. With skill and determination, they quickly climbed the power ladder, becoming trusted associates of El Chapo. The arrest of the twins was the result of an extensive investigation into their drug trafficking activities, where they imported and distributed large quantities of cocaine and heroin from Mexico. They became one of the top distributors for the Sinaloa cartel, primarily responsible for spreading cocaine throughout the streets of Chicago, Columbus, Cincinnati, Philadelphia, New York, and Washington. Everything changed in September 2005 when they began achieving impressive sales after meeting El Chapo. They arranged to receive large shipments of cocaine and heroin on credit, since they did not have much money at the time. They picked up the goods at the border and transported them to Chicago, where they established their headquarters, but this alliance collapsed after they were arrested. The fear of living in prison drove the twins to cooperate, providing valuable information to the DEA about the inner workings of the Sinaloa cartel and El Chapo. Their assistance was crucial in the arrest of El Chapo, who was considered one of the most dangerous and unpredictable drug lords in the world. However, the decision to become informants came at a high price. Although the U.S. government promised to protect them, but the Flores twins forever became targets of the Sinaloa cartel, who viewed them as traitors. Instead of life sentences, they received only 14 years in prison. Ultimately, the judge delivered a stern statement: "I will not keep you in prison for life, but the reality is you have received life sentences. From now on, for the rest of your lives, you and your families will have to remain vigilant, always looking over your shoulders." Every time a car or motorcycle approached, they would wonder if it was someone coming to kill them. Whenever they started a car, they would worry if it would explode. This would be the rest of their lives. This is the current state of the Flores twins. They cannot return home and must live in hiding, always threatened by the Sinaloa cartel. In October 1989, Renee Enriquez, a cold-blooded criminal and leader of a Mexican mafia gang born in California, was arrested and charged with the murder of Cynthia Galvedon. Instead of facing the death penalty, he pleaded guilty and was sentenced to life in prison. However, this could not change the nature of a vicious murderer, power-hungry even while incarcerated. In July 1991, a bloody event unfolded in an interview room at the Los Angeles County Jail. Enriquez, along with another accomplice, attacked Salvador Monbuenrostro, a leader of the Mexican mafia, stabbing him 30 times. The brutality of the attack made many inmates shudder, but fortunately, Salvador survived. The aftermath of this horrific attack led to Enriquez being transferred to Pelican Bay State Prison in 1993. As a gang member, Enriquez was held in a dark, windowless isolation cell in a special security unit, where he could not communicate with the outside world. Everything began to change in July 2003, when Enriquez officially declared his departure from the Mexican mafia. Hoping to escape his dark life, he decided to provide the U.S. government with crucial information about the crimes he had previously collaborated in. For Enriquez, cooperating was not only a form of repentance, but also a ticket out of prison that he yearned for. In 2014, something unprecedented occurred. Officials from at least 11 federal and state law enforcement agencies wrote letters to the parole board attesting to his contributions, affirming that crimes had been solved and prosecuted correctly due to his information. In February 2015, Enriquez appealed with a bold promise that if released, he would participate in the federal government's witness protection program. He had spent over a decade on the Mexican Mafia's hit list since cooperating with law enforcement in 2003. However, things were not as simple as he thought. He requested not to be labeled a registered sex offender and to be closely monitored by the Federal Bureau of Investigation, but this request was quickly denied. At that time, California Governor Jerry Brown blocked his release for a very clear reason. Enriquez was a top target of the Mexican Mafia, and releasing him would endanger not only him, but also his family, parole officers, and the community where he would live. By November 2017, once again, Governor Jerry Brown denied Enriquez's request for clemency for similar reasons. However, this time, Enriquez expressed genuine remorse and stated, "I cannot change the past, but I can contribute to the future." Although he continued to appeal until July 2022, after many years of fighting against fate, Enriquez was finally granted clemency and entered the Federal Witness Protection Program, opening a new chapter in his life, a chapter fraught with risks and stress, but also filled with hope for a new life. On February 7, 1985, the atmosphere in Guadalajara seemed to hang in the air as if everything were waiting for something terrible to happen. 4 vehicles full of armed men waited outside the U.S. consulate, filled with determination and brutality. When Enrique Kiki Camarena, a courageous undercover agent, stepped out of the consulate, they immediately sprang into action. The sight of a man being kidnapped in broad daylight right before the eyes of many was not only an act of terrorism, but also a brutal act of revenge by the most ruthless drug cartel in Mexico. Enrique, or Kiki, as everyone often called him, was born into a middle-class family in July 1947. When he was just 9 years old, his family decided to immigrate to California, but life there was not as expected. They fell into poverty. Despite this, Kiki never gave up hope. He graduated from high school in 1966 and then joined the U.S. Marine Corps, serving until 1970 when he was honorably discharged. After that, Kiki began working for the Imperial County Drug Enforcement Agency as an undercover agent. Amid the fierce war on drugs, Kiki faced dangerous smuggling organizations, including the massive network known as the French Connection. Although the U.S. government dismantled this network in the 1960s, but that very destruction paved the way for other dark cartels to rise rapidly. When the DEA was established in 1973, Kiki was recruited as a special agent due to his fluency in both English and Spanish. In 1980, the DEA opened an office in Guadalajara, and Kiki was immediately assigned there, where drug transactions took place daily. Kiki's decision to move to Guadalajara was a risky one. His wife believed it was a good opportunity for their family, but they did not foresee the tragedy that awaited them. Kiki's mission was to dismantle the core of the Guadalajara cartel led by Miguel Angel Felix Gallardo, the godfather of the drug trade. One day in 1994, Kiki received a tip-off about a massive marijuana plantation in a remote village called Rancho Buffalo. When Kiki and his pilot friend, Alfredo Zavala Avalar, confirmed the existence of this enormous field, valued at up to $8 billion, they quickly reported it to their superiors. However, things were not that simple. A major raid was planned, but a surprise occurred. The Mexican government had warned the farm owner in advance. As a result, by the time law enforcement arrived, everything had turned into a ghost town. It was the largest DEA bust, bringing joy to the U.S. government, but also causing worry among drug lords. The atmosphere in the city became suffocating and danger surrounded Kiki. Although innocent Americans continued to be murdered, Kiki became the top target. On February 7, 1985, after a source provided detailed information about Kiki, the drug lords plotted their revenge. Ernesto Carrillo, a notorious drug dealer, ordered Kiki's kidnapping with the help of corrupt officers within the Mexican intelligence agency. As Kiki left the consulate to meet his wife for lunch, a man suddenly appeared, presenting his DFS badge and informing Kiki that high-ranking officials wanted to meet with him. In surprise, and without time to react, Kiki was immediately surrounded and forced into a car. Kiki was then taken to a safe house where he endured brutal torture. A later autopsy revealed he had been savagely beaten, burned, and had his spine broken. Not only Kiki, but also his pilot friend Alfredo Zavala could not escape this tragic fate. He was kidnapped by El Chapo at the airport and taken to a secret location for torture simply for his connection to the raid. In the end, Kiki died in agony, his body wrapped in plastic, while Alfredo Zavala was also wrapped in plastic but still alive. Both were buried, but tragically, Alfredo Zavala was buried alive. Their deaths became symbols of the brutality and cruelty of the drug world, reminding everyone of the dangers of this war. Kiki Camarena's fate came to a close, but the story of his life will forever live on in the memories of those who have heard of the courage and tragedy of a man fighting against evil. What do you think of this story? Please leave your thoughts in the comments below so everyone can know. Don't forget to like and subscribe to support me. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.